yourself, and please be sure that you have muted yourself. And all of your questions can go into the chat or you can hold them to the end, please. All right, so good afternoon. My name is Noreen Landis Tyson, and I am the project manager for UPK for Joint Initiatives for Youth and Families. We are the local coordinating organization for UPK here in El Paso County. Also on this call is Heather. Heather, wave your hand, please. Heather is our lead family resource navigator. And we have a half-time family resource navigator. His name is Ryan, and we are hiring a third one. Actually, we're doing interviews tomorrow for a bilingual Spanish speaker that we currently are using our foundations manager for that purpose, which we really appreciate. So the purpose of today is to give you the updates for January from CDEC, and also while we're going through that, I want to start to help you understand the things that you can and should know how to do based on the guidance that is in the provider handbook. So we're going to be referring to the provider handbook a lot. The CDEC's goal is over this next year is to make sure that all providers feel very comfortable with knowing how to do the things that they have given you permission to do, so that unless there is a serious issue, you do not have to come to us as the LCO to be able to assist you. Now, with that, I want to say we are here. We are committed to customer service. We are committed to your success. So if at any point along the line you need assistance, please don't hesitate to reach out to us. And at the same time, take that opportunity to learn how to do the things that you should be able to do, because it gives you the opportunity to do that at 10 o'clock at night if you want to, and not have to wait it for us. So let's make sure you know what it is you can do. And I think those permissions are going to continue to get even more robust as time goes on. So the first thing I'm going to do is remind you that CDEC has office hours, and these are their office hours. There are provider office hours that are scheduled on the first Tuesday of each month at 6 and the fourth Monday of each month at 1 p.m. And school district office hours are scheduled on the third Thursday of each month at 4 p.m. AU office hours are scheduled on the second Tuesday of each month at 2 p.m. And family office hours have been scheduled, and I took one of them off of there because it had already passed. The next one is tomorrow, and we will be letting you know when those family office hours are scheduled. I don't know whether they're going to be regular times or not. I want to remind you that we also have a specific family page on our JI webpage, and so the office hours will also be up there. It is www.jointinitiatives.org/UPK families. So that is also there, and you can send families there. So we're going to do a couple of reminders. So the first thing we're going to talk about is payment reminders. You are paid monthly per enrolled child, and it's based on the published rates. And the published rates for El Paso County for 24-25 are up on the UPK page at www.jointinitiatives.org. So that is there. It is not the same throughout the entire state. So if you're in El Paso County, you need to know what the rates are for El Paso County. And then it does say here that monthly payments will be prorated based on attendance for children who attend more than one program in a month due to a transfer of care. I will tell you that there is no guidance that has been put out on this yet, nothing definitive about how this is happening. I actually sent something up to the state today asking if it made more sense to just take this out of here. Since this is their slide, I didn't do it without their permission. I do believe that there is going to be some guidance on this, but I know many of you have already experienced this. And so as soon as we hear what is going to be happening, if anything, on this, we will let you know. Right now, to the best of my knowledge, there is no proration based on moving from one provider to another. You can always review your monthly payment reports through your payment partner's account, Metrics IQ, and you can submit a ticket through Metrics IQ if you have any questions or issues. Just a reminder that we are not able to address any payment issues. They have to go to Metrics IQ. Okay. And so you'll have access to these slides and the link in these slides for you to be able to do that. Or you can contact us and say, please give me the Metrics IQ link again. I didn't put it in here before I did this. Eligible funding is defined as how many program hours the state will fund for a child, depending on the child's award. So this could be 15 hours, or it could be 30 hours, or if the child is enrolled in a Park Day program, then you will only be paid for 10 hours. So, and the child's funding award will vary based on the hours they are scheduled to attend preschool each week. So, if a child is enrolled in a preschool program, a part-time program, which is 10 to 14 hours, that child is only eligible, and you will only be paid for 10 hours. If the child is enrolled in 15 hours on up per week, the child may be eligible for only 15 hours, and you can charge for the additional hours where the child is there. If the child is eligible for 30 hours, they have to be, in order to get that 30 hours, they must be enrolled in a full-time or an extended day program. So they must be attending for 30 hours and above. If they are attending for more than 30 hours and they are eligible for 30 hours, you may charge for the hours above 30 hours. Okay? If that is not clear, please make that known in the chat and we will go back to that later. Okay? Their eligible funding is different from the number of hours that they are enrolled with your program. So you could very well have a family who is only eligible for 15 hours, but they need a full day program. And so you're charging them for the additional hours above 15, but they're still enrolled in a full day program because that's what they need. Okay? Actually, I'm going to stop here. Do you have any questions on this? Is it clear? Okay. So if you think about this and you have additional questions, we can go back to them a little bit later. All right. CDEC has some reminders. Let's see. We just went through these. And okay, login issues. Um, so some of you have had login issues where you have not been able to log in because you forgot your password, or your second your two-factor authentication isn't working. It's going to a phone that you no longer have, et cetera, et cetera. And so the first thing you do need to do before you contact us is ensure that you are attempting to log into the provider portal at provider.upk.colorado.gov. And then if you are not able to, for whatever reason, get in, then at least at this point, the easiest way for you to address this is to reach out to me at nglt@macmac.com. Okay. and I can walk you through this. And then when I walk you through this, hopefully we're going to fix everything that is your issue so you don't have a problem logging in again. Okay. But if you do, or if you need to add or want to add another staff member or another um, email address to your account, we can do that. I also want to remind you that if people have left your organization who have access to login.gov UPK, you need to let us know so we can deactivate that person. Otherwise, they continue to have access and can do what they want in your account, which probably isn't a good thing. Okay. So it's up to you, though. We have no way of knowing whether or not somebody has left your organization. So if you don't reach out to us and let us know, then that person stays active in your account. So login issues come to us, we'll fix it. And then hopefully you won't have any other issues from there. Okay. Um, we're going to move on to some of these tasks. And once again, I'm going to remind you that there is a very extensive provider handbook available. There is also a family handbook available, and the AU handbook is being updated, but that is also available. So, or will be available. So, if it applies to you, you really, really, really need to bookmark this handbook. Okay. Unfortunately, we cannot send it to you as an attachment because it is too big. So bookmark it. You can find it at, guess what? www.jointinitiatives.org/UPK. Okay. And the link to the latest provider handbook is always up there. All right. So go ahead and you can see what's in the handbook. All right. It's long, but there's a lot of information. And when they do update it, they put on the page a banner that says new. So every once in a while, you can, download and look at the new one at the handbook, and you'll see what says new. We will also try to let you know whenever there is an updated handbook out there, and we're going to do that through our emails that we send out to you as providers. Okay. All right, we're going to move on to awarded hours eligibility for 25-26 family applications. All right. So this actually also, well, we're going to do this one first. So you got an email from me last week, I think, or earlier this week, that told you that there were verification letters that were being sent to families, and they started being sent on January 27th. And I sent you, as a part of that, an attachment of what was sent out to families. One attachment said that was for families who qualified for 30 hours, and one attachment was for families who only qualified for 15. Okay. That goes to families, and it's telling them that what their eligibility is. All right. And then you can also download your enrollment report, your supplemental hours report, which tells you what families are eligible for. So this slide, and this is out of the handbook, by the way, tells you how to pull the report. You go to your student tab first. And then if you have a location, then you select the specific location. Then you click on the three dots to download the enrollment report. And once you have the report, there is a column there, column M, titled Child Eligibility Hours Per Week, HPW. And no matter the number of the order of the numbers of the HPW, the child is eligible for all hours, including the highest number listed in the report. So that means if there's 30 HPW in that column, that family is eligible for up to 30 hours of preschool. If there's no 30 HPW, but there's a 15 HPW, they're only eligible for 15 hours. So you all have access to this enrollment report. And if you are having any problems with that, reach out and let us know so that we can troubleshoot that and figure out what's going on. But it is there. And I know it's there for 24, 25 current kids, and will be there if it's not already for 25, 26. So this is a great time for me to remind you that we are running 2 years right now. We're running 24, 25, and we're running 25, 26. So you may have families, as an example, who are coming on board and they're eligible now for the rest of the year. And you say, okay, great, go in and apply. And then, we're in direct enrollment, so I can get you specifically placed with us, right? And then you find out that they say they applied, but you don't see their application. That's because they applied in 25, 26, okay? Which isn't gonna help them, all right? And in fact, they're going to be denied because they're kindergarten eligible. And then they get frustrated. So please remind your families, if they're applying for 24, 25, they need to be careful that they're submitting their application for 24, 25. If they're applying for 25, 26, that one is more readily available at this point and easier to find. But we need to make sure that they apply for 25, 26. Okay? So that's the first question you ask them. Did you apply for 24, 25? Okay. And they can always go back into their application and look to see whether or not they applied for 24, 25. Okay. If they did not, if they did it wrong and they can't seem to get to the right application, that's when you reach out to dear old Heather. Okay. And Heather is going to help you. She's going to help the family. Okay. Have the family reach out directly to Heather. Do not do it yourself because we cannot complete the applications. So we're going to walk them through how to get the right application submitted. All right. So please don't contact Heather. If it's the wrong application, have the family do it. And it's upk@jointinitiatives.org. Okay? And she will help. All right, so now we're going to talk about just how direct enrollment should be done and should be going right now. Now, I want to remind you again that direct enrollment is what we're in for 24, 25 right now. Okay, so this is the kids who will be going to kindergarten in the fall. All right. And they're with you now through the end of May for UPK. They may be with you through the summer too, but the summer is not supported by UPK. All right. And so you want to get these kiddos into a UPK seat for you, and you have a seat open. That's great. So what you want to be doing, particularly if you have a seat open, then you always want to be checking your children who are in selected status. So, and this is for 24, 25. So how do you do that? You used to be able to look at 24, 25 and you would just see selected. Okay. That was before we made 25, 26 live. All right. So now you have to jump through a few more hoops to see the children that are in selected status. Okay. So you want to ensure you are in the correct program year, which for you would be 24, 25. And then from your matched tab, click on the status dropdown. Then click on the box next to selected. And this is how you will be able to see the students who have selected your program and continue to follow the direct enrollment process for 24, 25. Okay. So that's the way you see the selected status at this point. It's also will be the way you'll see selected status for 25, 26 after matching algorithms start. But right now, you can't see it for 25, 26. You can only see it for 24, 25. Okay. If you have seats open, you may have kids that have moved into town or are looking to change providers, and they have chosen you as one of their two places that they want to be considered, right? And you don't get notification of that necessarily. If you're not looking in your selected list, you wouldn't know that these kids have contacted you. Or that they have chosen you. Now, we would hope, and we are encouraging families to get in touch with the provider that they're interested in before just submitting an application and putting that provider in there. But there's no guarantee that that's what the parent is going to do. So if you have an open seat, check your selected list and make sure you're doing it for 24, 25, and then go ahead and reach out to that family and see if they really want that seat. Okay? So don't hold off on that. Keep an eye on that. All right? And once again, you can do that. You can look at that. All right? So just want to remind you what direct enrollment looks like. So the family starts an application or the family contacts a provider, and then the family selects two providers. Their selection is limited to two. And then they submit their application. The provider selected received notice of potential match, and the only way that happens, to best of my knowledge, is through your selected list that we just talked about how to go over. And then providers review and accept or decline the match, and then and you can decline the match if you don't have a seat available. You can decline the match through direct enrollment if you do not have a seat available. Okay, now I need to say that again. For 24, 25 in direct enrollment, if you do not have a seat available, if somebody has chosen you and you do not have a seat available, you can decline that match. Okay? Because they may not necessarily know that you don't have a seat available. All right? And then if you accept them, and you're basically offering the family a match. Okay? And then the family at that point has to accept the match, and then you enroll. Okay? Now, one of the ways to shortcut this, I want you to understand what the process looks like, because at some point along the line, we as an LCO may not be able to help you shortcut this. So you need to understand the process. Okay? Um, to shortcut this, and many of you have figured this out already, you can contact either Heather or me and say, I have a family that wants a seat with me. Can you put them in accepted status in this particular program? Okay. And then Heather or I will say, are you sure you've talked to the family for sure they want the seat? And you say, yes, they want the seat. So then at that point, Heather or I are going to put them in accepted status, and we're going to make a note in their application that they requested a seat with you. And once they're in accepted status, then you can go ahead and enroll them. It shortcuts the whole process, particularly if you have a family that you're concerned will not follow through with okay, I'm going to accept them. Now they have to accept me. Now I'm going to, that kind of thing. And sometimes that happens, right? But I would like you to try to follow this process if you can. And many of you are, because we're not hearing from you. But some of you are choosing to shortcut the process. And as long as Heather and I have the time to do it, we're going to help you with that. Okay? But you need to understand the process. And at least once, I would love for you to go through this process the way it's designed so that you know how it works. And you can actually do this with the parent sitting right in front of you. Okay. So the parent has come in and they've said, hey, let's do a tour. And they've done a tour and they really like you. And they say, yes, I want that seat. So then you sit them down in front of your desk and you go through this process, and they do it on their phone or whatever it is. Okay. And accept you. So I want you to try it. I want you to figure out how to do it because I cannot guarantee that we will be able to do this for you. Use the shortcut um, forever. Okay? All right, so that's what direct enrollment looks like. And that's what we're in right now for 24-25, and we're going to be in direct enrollment for 24-25 all the way through May. Okay? So you control your seats. And with that, I also want you to know that you do not have to decrease seats if you don't want to. Um, you can leave them sit there because the bottom line is nobody can jump in your seats without you doing it for 24-25. Okay. There's no matching going on. There's nothing a parent can do to get into the seat. It has to happen through you. Happy to decrease your seats if that makes you more comfortable. If you end up enrolling some kids that are not UPK eligible and you're concerned about, your licensing capacity or whatever, and you want it to look right, that's okay. We'll decrease your seats. But I just want you to know you don't have to do that because nobody's jumping in your seats without your knowing it. Okay. And by the way, decreasing seats have to come to me. All right. And because the state decreases seats, they want to make sure that there's nobody sitting there that you didn't know about or something of that sort. And we're going to talk about you being able to increase your own seats in a few minutes, but decreasing seats always has to come to the LCO. Okay? All right. So let's talk about next school year. All right, so I want to remind you about the enrollment process. And this is that they do call it an estimated timeline, but we're beginning to move on into a few more specifics at this point. I think we'll have even more over the next day or two, but I talked to Jessica, our LCO person, yesterday, and I think we're starting to hone in on some exact details here. So we are currently in pre-registration for, and switch your minds to 25-26 now, okay? 25-26. Okay. We are currently in pre-registration for 25-26, and we will be through 5 o'clock on Monday, February 3rd. Okay. So pre-registration means that families who either have a child attending with you, have a sibling attending with you, or is a child of an employee, if you are honoring all three of those, then a family can go in and register with you. They have to put you first. They have to put the program that they want to be with you first. And they have to answer the question on the application as to how they have pre-registration priority. Okay. It takes 24 hours before that shows up with you. It's not instantaneous. It shows up the next day. Okay. And it shows up with you in placed status. And we'll talk about what your options are. Many of you have already figured it out, but we'll talk about what your options are when that happens. As of so on February 4th, sometime on February 4th, and I think this is actually, I think we're actually on the 9th now. I think we sort of determined that this was the 9th. Whoops, 9th. Um, Families must accept their pre-registration matches. Okay. So what's going to happen is families that you have not declined as being eligible for pre-registration, they're going to get their match. Okay. They must accept it. They're not done. They have to accept it. Okay. So, but they can also decline it. They can also say, I changed my mind. That's not where I want to go. And they can decline the match. Okay. If they decline the match, then they're going into the matching algorithm on the 10th. Okay. If they do nothing, if they do not accept it, they're going into the matching algorithm on the 10th. So, in order to preserve their seat, they have to accept the match between the 4th and the 9th. Okay? And after the 3rd at 5 o'clock, no pre-registration applications will be honored. Everything from there on in is going through the algorithm. Okay? All right. So then family matching, there are plenty of families who do not have pre-registration status that have been enrolling their children, and that's great. We want them to do that. And so they're registering, and any application that has been submitted without pre-registration through February the 5th will run through the first algorithm. Okay. Anything after February the 5th will run through the second algorithm in March. Okay. Um, so registration through upk.colorado.gov for families up until February 5th, February 10th, the first matching algorithm runs. February 12th through the 21st. So notice you providers are not going to get your proposed matches for a couple of days. Usually the state has to do some cleanup in there. They have to go through and they have to say, okay, this worked. Oh, we have a problem here, and fix this stuff before they send it to you. Believe me, you want them to fix the glitches before they send it to you. So they're going to hold until February 12th, and you should get your matches on February 12th. And then you have from February 12th to the 21st to review and accept or decline your matches. And so we're going to talk about what that looks like in a few minutes just to make sure everybody's on the same page. And then on February 24th, the families will be notified of their first round matches. So if you have not declined them, then they're going to get a match with you. Okay. And they're going to find that out on February 24th. And once again, they either have to accept or decline by March 3rd. Okay. If they do nothing, they're going back into the second algorithm. Okay. And they may not get the same match again because the seats may be full by that time. Okay. So it's really, really important that they get their it's really, really important that they pay attention to accepting the match. Okay. Second round matching runs on March 10th. It's the same process for the second round, and families notified of second round, they will be accepted or declined by March 31st. New this year, we are going to direct enrollment on April 1 for 25-26. So that process that we just talked about for 24-25 that we're in right now, we're going into the same process on April 1 for 25-26. Okay. There's some information on here about IEP direct placement. Again, I don't know much about any of this except what is on here. It looks as if there's some processes that the AU's school districts need to go through, which I think they're probably all pretty familiar with at this point. There is an AU guide that is being updated, and as soon as that is available, I would suggest you take a really good look at it. I do want to remind everybody that if a family applies and they check that that their child has an individual education plan, they will not be able to choose a provider because the assumption is that they actually do have an IEP, and at that point they are going to their AU. The application is going to their AU. If you find out that that's what happened to a family and they just didn't understand what an IEP was and they checked it anyway, that family needs to contact us. And then we're gonna submit it and get it fixed. There is another opportunity or another path for that family, and that is to submit it directly to the help desk, the state help desk, stating, which I'm going to give you all of that information toward the end of this, stating that they accidentally chose the IEP. Okay. And then that will go to the person up at the state who checks with the AU on that to make sure the child does not have an IEP and then takes the IEP off the application. Heather and I cannot take the IEP off the application, even if it was a mistake. We do not want the family submitting a second application. Two applications slows down the processes and causes a mess. So if they screwed up, which is completely understandable, then then we will at that point fix it. But it has to go through a process to fix it, and the process does not include submitting another application. So please don't tell them to do that. Okay? All right. But there's a whole nother process if a family needs full day care, they have an IEP, and the school district does not offer full day care. And the only way that that can be addressed is by the parent contacting their school district and discussing their situation with their special needs department, with their child find department. Okay? And then they're the ones that need to talk with the family about whether or not their choice is in the best interest of the child, et cetera, et cetera. We want to give the school district, I mean, you don't want families declining services if the child's eligible for them, right? You want them to know what it is they're doing by doing that. Not guilt, not anything of that sort, just awareness and education. So they have to go to the school district first, and then it'll be worked out from there. Okay. If they don't have an IEP and they have accidentally put that in, you can either reach out to us or the family can submit um, the uh, the help desk ticket themselves. And yes, that information is coming toward the end. Sit tight. Okay. All right. So we've talked about pre-registration. Wanted to remind you because you probably did see this in one of the emails we sent that you have the ability to send a link to a family between now and Monday to enroll with your program. And it automatically puts your program where you have a seat for that child, it automatically puts that in the first position and then automatically states that there's a continuity of care thing there. You can do that, and that's absolutely fine. But it is not the only way that a child can enroll with pre-registration status. They can go in with upk.colorado.gov and go through the process like they normally would and state that they have pre-registration status with a particular provider. But if you use the link, we want to remind you that you need to check that child's date of birth first and make sure that they are eligible before you send them that link. Because evidently, Bridge Care is not screening based on date of birth. So kids are ending up in place status when they shouldn't be because they're not eligible. So you're going to, before you send the link, make sure that that date of birth, you've checked the date of birth of that kiddo. So here's how you find your program link. So you navigate to the provider portal and you navigate to the match tab. You ensure you are looking at the correct year selector at the top of the page. And from the match tab, select the invite button, which opens a pop-up. Okay. And that's how you do it. And then you can send it right there. Invite. All right. This is straight out of the provider handbook. All right. Next is status definitions. We want to make sure, once again, we're all on the same page. So selected means a provider has submitted their application and nothing has happened to it yet. Okay. If they are in place status, that means that that placement has been shared with you during your review period. So you should, if you have families that are returning to you right now in 25, 26, and they have followed the process, you should be able to see them in placed status. Okay. When you can see those that, yeah, place status. All right. Um, Match status means that the family has been notified of the match. So place status, the family can't see it. Match status, the family has been notified. Okay. Accepted status means that the family accepted the match. All right. And at that point, you can contact the family with instructions for enrolling. And then enrolled status means that you have actually enrolled them. Okay. Before I forget, I want to make absolutely sure that everyone is aware of this. Last year, we had a bunch of problems with people enrolling kiddos before the state had actually released an enrollment form. Okay. And those providers got caught in a mess in terms of not being paid for those kiddos. You thought that they were enrolled, and in fact, according to the state, they were not because there was no enrollment form. So do not attempt to enroll any children for 25, 26, 25, 26 until you are told to. Okay. We have to wait until the enrollment form is ready before you can do that. All right. So they may be in accepted status. You let them sit in accepted status until we tell you that there is an enrollment form available. And in fact, you don't even need to enroll them until July, basically. But the form will be available before that. But you guys who are extra efficient, I really, really, really appreciate you, but you're going to get yourself caught in another mess for payment if you attempt to do it. So don't even try. Okay? All right. So we've talked about the general registration, we've talked about the matching rounds. So I'm going to skip past this. And then we've talked about the direct enrollment is going to start on April 1st. And we've talked about the IEP registration and what's happening there. And again, that will be outlined even further for those who are in have a need to handle this in the AU handbook that is being updated. All right, we're going to go on to how to view and decline matches. All right, again, this one's straight out of the provider handbook. So the match to program status. So the family application is completed, it's submitted. Okay. And then if they have, if then the system, if there is a seat available, they will place the child in the program, okay, through the algorithm. And here's how the algorithm works. The algorithm always tries to get the child to their first choice, okay? If there are seats available, then that's where, depending upon the child's lottery number, the better the lottery number, the better the chance that you're going to get a seat at your first choice. Okay. And then if it can't get the child to the first choice, it goes down to the second. It can't get to the second, it goes down to the third, et cetera, et cetera. Okay. So just because a family has put a particular program in first choice does not mean that that's where the child's going to end up. Okay. Depends upon how many seats you have and what their lottery number is. So let's say they have a really good lottery number. Okay. And so they've been in place status with their first choice. Okay. Then, let's say that you're a school district. Okay. And the school district has a reason to decline that family because they're out of district and they don't take kids who are out of district. All right. So they're looking at their whole list of place kids, they're going through them, and now it's like, nope, can't take that kiddo. Okay. So now they decline that child. Okay. Then we review that decline, okay, and we either accept it or reject it. And because the school district has the right to decline for out of family out of district placement, we are not going to reject it. We're going to accept it. Okay. Now, let's say you are a center, a private center. Okay. You have at this point no legitimate reason to decline a family once the pre-registration is over. Okay. So you cannot decline a family. Um, and again, we're going to go through the reasons for declines, et cetera, so that you understand that. But you can't decline a family. So at the point that they have been placed with you, what are you going to do? You're going to reach out to that family. You're going to offer them a tour between the time that they've been placed with you and the time that they're going to receive their match. You're going to offer them a tour and you're going to make sure it's a good fit. You're going to make sure that the family knows how much the additional hours are going to cost them, et cetera, et cetera. Okay. And so you do a tour. The family loves you. You use love the family. You do nothing. Okay. You do nothing. Take no action. Um, if there is an issue there for whatever reason, you and the family can decide that it's not a good fit, but only the family can decline. You cannot. Okay. So you're going to brush up on your tax skills and you're going to have a conversation with that family about why you're concerned that it may not be a good fit for their child so that you can encourage them to decline the match if it's not a good fit. But they get to do that. Unfortunately, you don't. Okay. And this is part of the equitable access part of universal preschool. Okay. So if you decide that you're going to ignore what I just said and you're going to decline the family, okay, then we're going to reject your decline. And the family is going to go back into place status. We're going to put them back in place status. Now, when that happens, generally, I'm going to give you a call and I'm going to say, help me understand why you declined this family. Okay. And then we're going to have a discussion just to make sure that you understand. And then we're going to strategize if there really is an issue there, how to address that issue for that family. And then maybe at that point, we'll reach out to the family and say, hey, I understand this and this and this. Do you want to make another choice? What would you like to do? But the bottom line is you don't have the power to decline that family. Okay? All right. So no action has been taken. So now the family receives their match. Okay. And then they have to accept the match, as we have talked about. And then once they accept it and once the enrollment form is available, you can then enroll them. All right. So that's what the overall process looks like. All right. So let's talk about a couple of other these pieces. During pre-registration only, this is the time we're in right now for 25-26. There are reasons for you as a provider to decline that are not available to you once pre-registration is over. So if a family has actually registered with you and they say that their child is currently attending with you and you're looking at that going, no, they don't, then you have the right to decline them. Okay. They don't get a priority seat with you, and you have the right to do that. Okay. So these are the reasons why you would decline a family, but only for pre-registration. These go away as of 5 o'clock on February the 3rd. Okay. Well, they actually go away a couple of days after that, but because pre-registration is still being processed. Okay. All right. Now, you may remember when you did your setup form that you were asked these questions. And if you clicked off one of these questions, like I have confirmed that this family will not be able to meet my participation requirements because I'm a co-op. Okay. So if you're a co-op and you've clicked that off and you've talked with the family and the family says, no, wait a minute, I can't be there 1 day a week, or whatever your requirement is for a co-op, right? Then at that point, you can go in and decline that family because you clicked that off that you were a co-op when you registered as part of setup. Okay. If you did not click any of these off, that's why you can't decline. Okay. Because these are the only reasons that you can decline a family. All right. All right, and then this is just a slide that reminds you that there are some of you that may need specific reasons that are not on that list that you would like to be able to decline a family. You actually have to submit that to CDEC, and I will tell you that very few of those are approved. But you can try, and this is how you do it. Okay? All right. So how to view and decline matches. Once again, this is right out of the provider handbook. So you log into your portal and you navigate to the matched tab up here, matched. Okay. And then you select the correct year, okay, to view in your top drop-down menu. So here, make sure you're in the correct year. I cannot tell you how many times I'm looking up an application for somebody and it's not there, and I'm telling you, they didn't apply. And then I'm looking up going, yeah, wrong year. So, make sure you're in the right year. Um, then there's a couple of pro tips here. When reviewing the screen, users have the option to filter by status to better manage matches. You can that new records will show a new tag, and pre-registration matches will show the pre-registration element for verification. So you can see here it says current student. Okay. Um, then you select the correct year. You select the current location to view. And uh, yeah, I just did that one. Okay, Noreen, come on. So there may be two of the same one in there. I need to get rid of that. Okay, so then you select the correct program to view in the middle drop-down menu. So right here, if you have only one program, you've got it easy. If you don't have only one program, you got to choose the right one. And then click on the name of the student to open up a pop-up to initiate a decline. So you're going to click on the name of the student to do that. Okay. And then when viewing the pop-up, select the status drop down to open the status, adjust the drop-down menu. So to accept a match, providers do not take any action. So this is very, very, very confusing to providers. You remember I told you you can't decline after pre-registration? You can't decline. You also can't accept. Okay, so if you have not declined, which you can't do, you have accepted, essentially. Okay, so there is no accept. Simply leave the student as placed. All right. And then if you have to decline, you can view your decline matches, view and decline. Again, it's right here. It shows you decline, etc. And it's going to ask you the reason why. All right. So that's where we are in terms of how to view matches and declines. Again, straight out of the provider handbook. So if you are getting confused, open up the provider handbook, open up your portal, and follow the steps. Okay? Once again, as a reminder, you do not accept the child. You leave them in place. Okay? All right. There's some information here about enrolling and unenrolling. For those of you, just as a reminder, first of all, Heather and I cannot unenroll for you. We can, but we're not allowed. And so we're not going to. So if you are unenrolling a child, you must unenroll within 10 days of the last date of the child. Okay. And uh, yes, and you have to do that. And if the child is moving to another program, whether it's moving from yours or to yours, you cannot enroll the child until the child has been unenrolled from the other program. Okay. So I'm more than happy to assist this with you with this, but we can insist, here's what we can do. So it's not at all uncommon for us to be told that such and such child is moving from one place to another and we need your help. And so I'll look in the application and say, well, that's great, but they have not been unenrolled from the other place. What is the child's last day at the other place? And has the parent told the child that they're moving from that place? We're not telling them. The parent needs to tell them. Not our job. Okay. So you tell the parent, if you want to come to us, that's all well and good. But if you're in a UPK seat where you currently are, you have to tell them that you're leaving and when your last day will be. Okay. Then that provider needs to unenroll, and we can add in your program to the application, and we can put it in accepted status, but we so that you can enroll as soon as the other child is if the child is unenrolled from the other one. You can also do this all yourself between the two programs, and I want you to know that it's a pain in the neck. I've got that, but you can do it. You have all of the permissions to do it. Okay. But you can also send it to us, but we're not getting in the middle of telling a provider that some kid is leaving. Okay? All right. And you must unenroll within 10 days. Now, when you are working with this other provider or with this parent, what I would do if I were you is I would try to do it on a first of the month basis. Okay. So the other provider, if at all possible, keeps the child through the end of the month. Okay. Then they unenroll on the first of the month and you enroll on the first of the month. You're being paid in arrears. Okay. If you unenroll mid-month, you're not going to get paid for that month, for those 2 weeks. Okay. So then you have to work with the family and say, well, I'm not going to get paid for those 2 weeks. Right. So you're paying me. So if I were you at this point, partial payments are not a thing. And so if I were you, to be fair to everybody, I would try to do it on the first of the month or the first day of, the first day of care of the month. Okay. So that's why, because UPK CDEC pulls down the enrollment on the last day of the month. And then the following month on the 15th, they pay for who is in enrolled status on the last day of the month. So even if that kiddo has only been there for a couple of days, that new provider is going to get paid the full amount for that month. So try to do it in and around the first of the month and explain to the parent why. I mean, it's in their best interest to try and make that work too. Okay. All right. I want to remind you that you can right now edit your 24-25 seats. Okay. You cannot edit 25-26 until that period of the 4th through the 9th. Then you can edit 25-26, but you can edit 24-25 right now. This is in the provider guide and telling you how to do it. Before asking us to increase your 24-25 seats, I want you to try this. Okay. If you need your 25-26 seats increased or decreased now, send them to me. okay? Because they have to be done through the state. You can't do it. But you can increase 24, 25 seats at any time now on your own, okay? Um, you cannot decrease seats at all. They have to come to us. 24, 25, 25, 26. They have to come to us. Okay, so this is there. So um, if the three little dots that they're talking about are not available in 25, 26, then that means that you're outside the period where you can do it on your own. Because we're going to be doing some matching processes in there. There's two 1 week periods within the matching processes that you can increase your 25, 26 seats on your own. Okay. If you're outside that and can't see the three dots, send it to me. All right, here's your help desk updates, everybody who's been asking about this. So there is a new help desk. From everything I have seen so far, this is a high functioning group. Unlike, I shouldn't say that. Never mind. Um, this group is functioning really well. Okay. And so here's where you can have the family submit a ticket at for the help desk. It's help.upk.colorado.gov. They can also email Universal Preschool at state.colorado.us. And here's the number that they can call: 303-866-5223. I would strongly suggest that you limit this to parents sending this up. You cannot submit a ticket on behalf of parent. Okay. If the parent needs an adjustment in their application or whatever, they have to submit the ticket. Okay. There are plenty of Spanish speakers up there, and they also have the opportunity to do other translation if needed. All right. Providers can contact the help desk for help. You're certainly free to do that. They prioritize parents, and your help desk ticket will be delayed for at least a day. If you would like help immediately as a provider, you need to reach out to me. Okay. Um, the more complex tickets for families are going to come back to us anyway, and Heather's going to work with the family. Okay. But if all they need is their application unlocked or something of that sort, they can certainly do this, and it will be taken care of very quickly. Okay, and these guys can move. They can move choices around and things of that sort if they're on the phone or it's been clear with the parent. Eventually, I think probably another year from now, the help desk is going to be the main route for everything. Um, but this is a new group, and so they're trying to figure out at this point what works and what doesn't work and how they need to staff it, etc. So please don't hesitate to send a family to us if they need help. But this is another option for them. And for you, if you want to try the help desk, please do. Um, but if you really want help relatively quickly. And by the way, if you send something to upk at jointinitiatives.org and it's a complex or not a simple fix for a provider, Heather's going to send it to me anyway. My focus is providers. Heather's is families. Okay. So, but if a family sends something to me and I can take care of it quickly, I just do. If it's more complex, I'm sending it to Heather and vice versa. Okay. All right, so here's the help desk information. So just as a reminder, provider resources, you know all of this at this point. All of this stuff, all of these links is up on www.jointinitiatives.org/UPK or UPK families. All right, so I am, for the moment, going to stop sharing. Okay, why is my sharing not stopping? Oh, yeah, it should be. You can't see my screen anymore, right? Okay, cool. All right. What questions do you have that we have not already answered?
I have them right here. Do you want them?
Sure.
Okay. Aspen, Ree, and Andrea wanted to know part-time is only paid for 10 hours. They wanted to verify that. Part-time
Yes.
is, yes.
Only paid for 10 hours. And that rate is up on www.jointinitiatives.org/UPK.
I have one from Jennifer. The provider handbook says 20, is the provider handbook going to say 2025 school year, or are they just going to keep updating the 24-25 version?
The provider handbook is updated as needed. And they add in, so there's stuff in there right now for 25, 26. But there's also still stuff in there for 24, 25 because we're still in 24, 25.
So it's never going to say 25-26. Is that's what she wants to know when you
I
pull it
don't
up?
I don't know what they're gonna say. Just make sure you look at the date. When it's downloaded, it'll tell you when the date it was that it was last updated.
Okay. Stacy said that she pulled up the CDEC website for the provider handbook, and the update for supplemental hours reporting was not linked in there. She did not see it. When you had that slide saying how to look for the supplemental hours,
Okay.
it wasn't on the CDEC website.
Yeah, there is a memo series that if you go into the provider handbook, you're gonna find you're gonna find a page that has a memo series on it. And one of the links in the memo series is the memo for supplemental hours, and that should give you what you need. If it doesn't, Stacy, reach back out to me. I'll try and figure out what's going on, and then I'll send it out to everybody else in one of our update emails.
Okay, there was one from Jennifer that said families used the link on December 18th and their applications didn't go through. I did ask if it was a link that she sent and she didn't reply back, but she wanted to know if it was because the system crashed on that date that the applications didn't go through.
I have no idea if she's missing kids at this point. Again, need to be able to reach back out to those children that you're missing, and or you can send the list to us. We'll tell you whether or not we have the app, and whether they just didn't fill it out properly.
Okay, the other one was about being placed and families accepting, and you explained that, and I let her know nobody has accepted matches yet. Placed does not mean a family has accepted a match. Matches have not gone out for pre-registration until the 4th. So we
That's
took
correct.
care of that one. Stacy
Okay.
did want to know when 25-26 provider IDs are coming out.
I don't know. What's what's a provider ID?
Oh, so we have for kids with IEPs, we have our provider ID and then we have program IDs.
Okay.
And I think the provider IDs are staying the same, but they said the program IDs were going to change.
Okay.
But when we are doing that direct enrollment for kids with IEPs,
Right.
have to have that provider or that program ID.
Right.
And they said they were going to change those. So I just didn't know if you had any ETA on when that was going to happen.
Because we are not in the loop with most of that, the answer is no. I had a conversation yesterday with Jessica about making sure that LCOs also had access to the AU guide so that we could be familiar with it. And as much as possible, if you've missed it in the guide, that we could answer those questions. The change in leadership up there feels like that's a good idea. So hopefully we will see that. But the AU guide, the updated AU guide, I was told should be out next week. And hopefully at that point, Stacy, it will be in there. But if it is not, Angela Dellen is the right person to send an email to.
Jennifer P. Nelson, you asked about number or email do parents use? Are you talking about for contacting joint initiatives or the help desk information that was shared?
She already gave me the information. I do apologize. I had asked it a long time ago. Forgive me.
No, it's cool. We're just checking on it. Thank you for letting us know. Vanessa wanted to know licensed centers are still only able to take children who will be 5 years old by October 1st.
You're always able to take children that are 5 years old by October 1st. They just won't have UPK support. Okay. The only children that will have UPK support are the ones that have birth dates between that are 4 by October 1, 2025, but not 5, unless the school district is working with a different cutoff date, or you have filed a different cutoff date with us when you signed up for to become a UPK provider. But almost all of you, not all of you, but almost all of you chose October 1. So that's the deadline. And unfortunately, there are no exceptions for that. Parents can actually redshirt their children if they want to. So keep them in preschool for another year rather than sending them to kindergarten. But it's not with UPK support. There is some discussion about allowing parents to choose which year they want to use UPK support for, but that has not changed yet. So this is where we are right now, and I believe it is where we will be for 25, 26. It may change for 26, 27.
I think one here. So Jennifer Nelson, like Noreen said, if you have any questions about parents wanting to see if the applications had gone through, you can reach out to me and I can look that up for you and see if they went through. Okay. So I can do that. And then a parent gave me a CCAP dual enrollment change form. What exactly do I do with that? From
So
Vanessa.
my understanding at this point is that so you know that most counties in the state at this point are on a CCAP freeze because they're out of money. And so part of their strategy is to try to figure out how to stack UPK rather than with CCAP rather than blend it. Okay. And so what that means is before, um, how do I explain this as simply as possible? Let's say you had a child with you. Let's say you had a child with you for 9 hours a day, okay, and they were both UPK and CCAP eligible, and their UPK eligibility was 15 hours. So the first 3 hours per week would be um, you'd be paid for 15 hours, but you would also be paid a full day rate for CCAP for the days that the child were there, right? So they were actually blending the money together. So you were getting both. You were getting a full day payment as well as a UPK payment. Okay. Now, what they're trying to do is they're trying to get parents to say, yes, I'm enrolled for UPK, and yes, I'm eligible for this number of hours in UPK. Okay. And then at that point, let's say you have a family who, well, I'll use Head Start as an example. Their full day program is 7.5 hours a day. So it's 30 hours a week, and that's it. Okay. So 7.5 hours a day for 4 days a week. So they were collecting both full day CCAP and full day UPK. Okay. Now they're only going to get UPK. They're not, I mean, the family will still retain their eligibility for CCAP, but CPCD is not going to be paid for the CCAP portion because they're getting money from UPK. Okay. So at this point, what they're trying to do is they're trying to determine how many hours the family is eligible for UPK and how many are left that are going to be paid for CCAP. And if it's less than 5 hours that are left, then they're going to a part day rate for CCAP. Okay. If it's more than 5 hours, then they'll keep the full day rate. Okay. And so, particularly if it benefits families in terms of their copay. So, if they're going to a part day rate and they're going to pay less on their copay, then they're going to, suggest to the parent that they change it, right? Because why should they pay more for a copay when providers are getting both UPK and CCAP? So that's their thinking. Okay. And in terms of what you do with it, I would hope that there would be something on the form that would tell you what to do with it. But I assume that they gave to you to tell you that the family's eligibility with you has changed, that they're going from full day to part day or whatever.
Form does not give much detail.
Then call DHS.
Fun.
Good one. One more question that came in. Is the stacking to begin in the 25-26 school year or now?
I'm sorry, is the what?
Vanessa said, so is the stacking to begin in the 25-26 school year or
Oh.
this school year or
No,
now?
they're doing it now. They're trying to save as much CCAP money as they can so that they can unfreeze and get more kids into CCAP. So that's what they're trying to do. What other questions do you have? Okay, I would hope that what you learned out of this today is that you are able to do a lot more things than I think maybe some of you are doing. A lot of you are very self-sufficient, and that's great. But on the other side of that, I don't want you to hear out of this that we're saying that we're not going to help you. We certainly are going to help you. But when I respond to you, when you ask questions, I am now adding in the page number. I'm answering your question, but I'm adding in the page number from the provider handbook. Because we have a responsibility to get you to the point where you understand the ins and outs of how to make all of this work. Because there is going to be a point in my mind where there's going to be a shift in focus on the part of the LCO to really supporting you and implementing quality standards and that kind of thing instead of technical assistance. And so, your technical assistance is going to come from the state help desk generally. Now, that's probably a year and a half away, but still, wouldn't it be great if you had the flexibility of being able to do what you want to do on your own time rather than having to wait until office hours or business hours or whatever to call us to get something very simple taken care of. Okay. All right, any further questions before we call it a day? All right, hopefully this was helpful to you. Thank you so much for being here. Yes, have a great day. Stay warm.